place you a lock it up. Skin tight in a slack up. Boy, from your inner the party you want tease me. Hey baby, come please me, girl. You make me fall in love easy. Come love me completely. Back up, back up. Oh my, balance it up. Sit down on it and wine. Back up, back up. Oh my, 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 balance it up. Oh my, my, my. Oh, oh my, my, my. Oh, oh my, my, my. You make me go on and on. You make me go on and on. We party till I break up down. We wait until the morning come. Oh. Come please me. Tease me, tease me, tease me, tease me, tease me, tease me. Come love me completely. Oh. Come give it to me, baby. Oh my, my, my. Back up, back up. Balance it up. Can't sit down and wine. Back up, back up. Oh my, my, my. Balance it up. But a girl can wine.
Dizzy on the beat.
You haters couldn't stop me, I'm ballin' in this bitch. Do y'all little niggas need to live? Making sure the execution swift. I'm killing all these niggas jumping in and out of whip. You haters couldn't stop me, I'm ballin' in this bitch. Do y'all little niggas need to live? Making sure the execution swift. I'm killing all these niggas jumping in and out of whip. You haters couldn't stop me, you better go and copy. My shit is hard like a brick from Poppy. You gotta watch these niggas acting cocky, but the trade pen was sweeten up the beef, no teriyaki. Yeah. Mobbing on the streets like a hooligan. Mobbing on the streets, I'm making moves again. Talking about your name, ring bells, but every time they say you, they be asking who are you again. Your man know, the world don't understand though. I knew I was the streets, I see my uncle with a banjo, cutting up the grand flow. Church, the fiends said the greenhouse be having all that work. Same fiends that put him in the jail, wouldn't let him out, they ain't even give him bail. In my city, either that or a box or in the spot, parking lot, pimping in the parking lot. We parking lot, pimped in there and out the parking lot. We parking lot, pimped in there and out the parking lot. We parking lot, pimped in there and out the parking lot. We parking lot, pimped in there and out the parking lot. You haters couldn't stop me, I'm ballin' in this bitch. Do y'all little niggas need to live? Making sure the execution swift. I'm killing all these niggas jumping in and out of whip. You haters couldn't stop me, I'm ballin' in this bitch. Do y'all little niggas need to live? Making sure the execution swift. I'm killing all these niggas jumping in and out of whips. These haters couldn't stop me, your boy looking cocky. I slide on you haters and eat them all. Shipping broccoli, then side with your bitch. You know I'm liking them sake. I like my money on hoes. I chase some chickens like Rocky. And you know I'm coming through and get it all day. Speed dial is a cold way. Sipping Henny in my lobby, nigga. Telling them meet in the hallway. We like drinking, getting money dipped in the latest fashion. Hustle, money made, flipped it right into rapping. Doing 9 to 5 while they bringing the packs in. Me and my bro getting ready to bring the stacks in. Every night is a party on my block. Labor Day shit like Juve on the block. Boys steady watching, yeah, they always wanna plot. And that's why they put the Juve party lights on the block. I said every night is a party on my block. Labor Day shit like Juve on the block. Boys steady watching, yeah, they always wanna plot. And that's why they put the Juve party lights on the block. You haters couldn't stop me, I'm ballin' in this bitch. Do y'all little niggas need to live? Making sure the execution swift. I'm killing all these niggas jumping in and out of whip. You haters couldn't stop me, I'm ballin' in this bitch. Do y'all little niggas need to live? Making sure the execution swift. I'm killing all these niggas jumping in and out of whips.
1, 2. It's the Black Source podcast. And we are live. We're live. So that first song, of course, was Mr. Vegas. And y'all know I always come in on some Mr. Vegas. And I usually do that because we be having the new stuff that is really not even circulated yet. And I also do it because, you know, as a black culture show, one of the things that I love is hip hop, which everybody should know that because hip hop rules. And another thing that I have a deep love and affection for is dance hall and reggae. And Mr. Vegas goes way all the way back to when I was just a little young blood. And I am going through a midlife crisis right now. And we will be bringing that up and discussing that over the year. I'll be 45 next month. And I'm feeling every bit of it. I'm not one of them people who do a soft 45 either. Like, I came screeching into this after a hard, fast motherfucking life. So I'm feeling every year of my shit. Don't even try to gas me. I already know I'm feeling old.
It's okay. You can join the party. You can join the crew. We will take you in. We'll show you the way.
So as far as reggae is concerned, I really love dancehall reggae. I mean, you know, I have a thing for it. And I can just, after the show, I can go find me some reggae somewhere, some little lounge that's playing it, and I can listen to that shit until the dawn breaks. I'm all about that life. And today is kind of like a holiday if you like dancehall and reggae, because Buju Banton is having his show, his concert in Jamaica, and it's the first time, you know, performing in decades, right?
It's been a while.
So yeah, that's a celebration. So I'm very happy about that. So today, what is the topic? We have 3 topics and 1 special guest. So the topics today are going to be postpartum depression and black motherhood. We want to talk about that. And then we're going to discuss, then I have a special guest, Nadra is here.
Hello.
And she's the only panelist here today. Nobody else is here.
Don't know how that happened.
Nobody else is here, but I'm so glad you are, because I get a chance to really round out and flesh out the conversations with you. Things that I want to discuss with you. You know, we're going to discuss weight loss and fitness. And like, that's a big story with you right now.
That's a huge story with me right now.
It's a major life
Pardon the pun, but yeah, that's a huge story.
You are definitely, you're having a major life change, and I am trying to copy those results. Right. So we're going to talk about some of the tips you already gave me, some new stuff like that.
Sounds good.
So the reason I want to open with postpartum depression is because I know people who have struggled with postpartum depression. Well, I know one person who did. Right. And I know people who have suffered from lesser illnesses like baby blues and some anxiety, and exhaustion, fatigue, and it's normal. What I learned from somebody recently is that, you know, your body literally loses a huge amount of estrogen and you know, these hormones.
Basically, your hormones go out of whack.
Yeah, because you just had the baby.
Yeah.
And so now you're at a depleted level of those hormones. Right. And I can see how that would cause like anxiety and fatigue and just have you all fucked up in the
Especially
game.
if you're already prone to it.
Especially if you're already prone
because
to
there's certain medications that if you're on there while you're pregnant, you have to go off of it while you're pregnant.
Right.
That may or may not cause birth defects.
Right.
So they may recommend that you go off of it. And the thing about those types of medications is they're hard to get just right anyway. Right. To make somebody, you know, get to the point where they can, you know, get through life if they do suffer with depression. So imagine doing that. Your body is a hormonal storm with the baby, and then you give birth to the baby, and all these hormones go rushing out, and everything changes, and then you're supposed to act perfectly normal afterwards. Yeah, you're supposed to be normal, but it's even worse than that. It's to the other extreme, because it's a time that people expect you to be your happiest. Right. And to be overjoyed, so people feel fine coming over, visiting, hanging out for hours. And you got to put up a front.
Yeah. You got to be smiling like, ding, everything's fine. Like, nah, everything is not fucking fine. And like for some mothers, it does go like that. Like you come home and it's surprisingly easy. I've heard mothers say, wow, the baby sleeps all night. And I have no problem, and the baby took to the breast like this with no problem, and my husband is supportive, my job is great, and like, you know, there are those stories.
And you know, some will be lying.
Lying.
They say all of that, and then their reality is so much different than what they're actually saying.
Because you gotta wonder, you know, and I'm gonna do a show on this after I write about this, but something that I've been working on, an essay I've been working on called I won't call it an essay, it's a post. let's not get
you know, I love your essays.
Let's not get like I'm no James Baldwin here, but I was working on a post that called the power of shame, and how it can be used as such a weapon in society.
Right.
And that's one area I think that it's really used by trying to make women feel like if you're not the best mom ever, then you're nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, bitch, fucking calm down. Some people struggle with things that come easier than maybe other mothers.
And it could be you could have had the best pregnancy ever and then had a terrible birth.
Right.
Or the person that is your partner reacts way different than what you thought, or they're not there for you, or say your mother was supposed to come and she can't.
Right. That's
it could be the little things, or your mother-in-law doesn't let you do laundry when
that's a huge thing.
I think
people underrate how much it is important to have a mom, you know, who is in the city or close to you.
Right.
Like, yo, I leaned on my mom mad hard. I didn't even realize it. Just was instantly. I was like, I'm going out. I'm going to get some stress off, and here's the baby. Y'all can rock out. My mom was like, yes, please.
And this is assuming you have a healthy baby.
And that's assuming I had which I didn't. So the first few months I had to get her chunked up, but after I got her in the clear. Yeah. Ever since then, I was like, you good? She's a daddy girl too. Y'all good. Y'all good. But yeah, so definitely if you don't have your mom's help, and like you said, if you thought you were going to have.
I had the opposite with my first one. I had a healthy baby, terrible birth. I was in the hospital for 2 weeks after she was born.
Okay.
So I had an infection on my cesarean, and that's already, I feel like a failure because I had a cesarean.
Oh, no. But yeah, I had one too.
So you already know.
I felt lucky, but go ahead.
I felt like a failure. I was in labor for 36 hours. Then I had her. Then I ended up with the infection. I couldn't even see her. They wouldn't let me touch her, nothing. I had a 106 fever. It was
awful.
Bad.
Yeah.
And and then my family was fighting with my ex-husband's family, and then I signed my daughter out with my parents so that my husband could take care of me because he didn't know how to take care of a baby. His mother, who wouldn't speak to me the whole time that I was pregnant, made him go over to my parents' house to take my daughter away from them, saying, "This is his child. You don't need to be. You don't need to have her."
Crazy.
And I'm in the hospital at the time, and everybody's calling me and saying, "Well, what are you gonna do? And what are you gonna?" And I'm over there crying. I'm 20 years old. I'm freaking out.
Yeah,
I don't know why
crazy.
I'm still in the hospital. So you can imagine the hell that I went through. And then when I finally got home, nobody was there for me.
Right.
And I had to deal with this baby, and I had to deal with my ex-husband, who wouldn't deal with his family in the way that he needed to do. And then my family was mad at me.
And never having had a baby before, and not having any idea like what to do.
Exactly. And it was frustrating. And, and like I said, I was 20. At the time I had finished my sophomore year of college. I to put it in perspective, I met my ex-husband. We married 7 months to the day we met. Right. And we had my daughter 9 months after the wedding.
Wow.
So we didn't have time to breathe.
Right. Right.
So by the time I had her, and all of my friends are still in college. So I had nobody around me. Nobody else had babies. So I couldn't, hang out with other women that had children. So I was on my own.
Right.
And that was bad. It was hard getting through that.
Yeah, I think the being on their own thing is the biggest part.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because the support, knowing that my daughter's father and my best friend, me and my best friend owned a daycare at the time, so we were actually living in the actual daycare. So I had somebody right there, you know what I'm saying?
Great. Yeah.
Who was all about, the baby, let me hold the baby. So somebody I know who does not have postpartum depression, but who does have like a lot of the symptoms, the milder symptoms.
Sure.
She had suggested to me, she had talked to me about how in African cultures, they have there's certain African cultures that have this this whole thing about I guess this doula kind of atmosphere where they come and they help and we need that in Black American culture.
Yes.
I don't know why we're neglecting that, but we're dropping the fucking ball. We need to have See, this is the thing. Black people will look out for each other. We need to know it's a thing. We need to know it's a thing that we can address.
Right. It's not that we don't want to do it. It's that we don't know to do it or who to ask or how to implement that.
Yeah, we got to organize that as a thing.
Yeah, so they're actually starting a program with people on Medicaid in Brooklyn, and I forgot where else. It might be in the Bronx. There's 2 spots in New York City where people on Medicaid can actually get doula services.
Wow.
Yeah, this is I
brought the right bitch in tonight, boy. I did not know. You coming with the facts.
This is a pilot program that they're recently starting, and if they find that it works, they're gonna expand it, on top of that. But yeah, that's the issue. Is like if you don't know, if say you have substandard healthcare, that's another issue where one woman may have access to doulas, or she may have access to a birthing center, or for me it was just like you go to the hospital, you have a doctor, that's it,
right?
And it makes a difference when you have caring people around.
Oh, man, it's got to make a huge difference. Listen, if you don't need it, then you won't really think that hard about it. That's the thing. But if you do need it, it's everything. It means so much. And then, like I said, if there's still shame in the game, if people are still making you feel uncomfortable to even say, look, I need this extra support, then we're never going to get it fixed. Like a conversation that needs to start.
Exactly.
A conversation needs to start.
Exactly.
I know, like with... with Black American culture, one thing I love about Black American culture is that you have to create everything.
Yeah.
You got to make something in order for it to happen. But so with something like this, like we can like just start it from scratch. Somebody can organize to start having like not even like a super organized thing, like but just a very grassroots trend or idea,
almost like a central place to go to find out information. Because you ever go to a job interview and they tell you, do you have any more questions, and you just sit there like because you don't know what to ask. Sure, I would have a bunch of questions if I knew what the hell to ask, and stop asking me that stupid question because I don't know what to ask you. This is the same thing. Like if you don't know what to ask, how are you going to ask these questions? You don't even know that you're allowed to your thoughts in your head of what could possibly happen. You don't even know that's a real thing, so you don't know how to ask somebody that it's actually a possibility. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely right. The conversations have to be had, and
that's the school level also is letting the parents associations put that out there, because these women have school age children, but they're also having babies as well. Right. I'm past that because my kids are in their 20s, so I don't. I'm never going to experience that. And I wish, I'm definitely not jealous or envious. I'm so happy for the women these days that get to, get to enjoy this. I mean, when I was having my kids, birthing centers were like, oh my God, you're going to have your kid where? What is that? I mean, I nursed my children in the early 90s. That was like unheard of. Right. And,
that's something that, when I was giving millennials credit for something the other, I forgot that. I give millennials credit for really banging hard on the breastfeeding drum. Not saying that our generation didn't do it, but just saying that this is something that they really kicked up.
But my girlfriends and I, we went hard body on that. We were like, we're nursing. We're not buying that formula crap. We're not dealing with bottles, none of that shit. The kids eat better this way.
May I have a cup too? I know you offer.
It's more nutritious. And it's cheaper.
Right.
It's just cheaper. And all these people like, oh, cover yourself up. No, you just wear a big shirt and put the baby over there. It's not a big deal. But I nursed in the subway. I nursed in the park. I nursed in the cab. I didn't care. Right. And I brought my whole family on board with that.
That was like a pioneering thing for the culture back then, but now that's getting to be like the norm. I love that. Is beautiful, man. I give them credit for that. I give them credit for that. Thank you. You want some water?
I got this. Thank you.
So I give them credit for that. And
but what I would like them to really push back on is all of these C-sections.
Well, we're gonna get to that, but let me get to that. I want to say, as far as what you were saying about, some of them, they have other children. You might have children who are 8, 9 years old, 7, 8, whatever, and you may have had depression with them and never really bonded the way that you wanted to bond with them at that age, because you didn't have anyone to talk to about it. Yeah. And now you're having more children, and now it's just like compounding the anxiety and the stress, because you're like, okay, I never really had it figured out with the first ones, and now I'm dealing again.
And now you're overwhelmed.
It has to be destigmatized. That whole idea of having baby blues has got to be destigmatized. And I think that the only way to do it, obviously, is to talk about it. But we can't keep on just acting as if, as if parenthood is always a bed of roses, or that a new baby. Nobody thinks parenthood is a bed of roses.
Well, doesn't it have?
But that a new baby is always just all good news all the time. Like it's even if the baby is healthy, it's not always good news all the time.
And doesn't it have a lot to do with the way people view women? Period. Just the way that they think that women should, if we're pregnant and we're standing on the train, I didn't get you pregnant, don't let her sit. And it's always a negative attitude towards the pregnant women, like, oh, who's her baby daddy? They don't care if she's married. They don't care if she's with a partner. She don't care if she's another woman. They don't care because they project this negativity on the woman from the beginning.
This is my thing about that, Nigel. Like, I feel like that's something that we should be able to, and this is just me. Let me see what they're saying in the comments already, because I feel like they're gonna come for me before I even open my mouth. If there's anybody out there, I don't know. Right? I should not be presumptuous, but what I'm gonna say, I'm just gonna say it.
Okay.
I feel like a part of empowering ourselves is not being too overly concerned with like what these nitwits,
knuckleheads,
and these fucking lettuce heads out here.
Oh, and I agree. I agree
with
you.
Like,
but I'm
really,
just saying,
like
I'm trying to figure out where they're coming from with it.
Right.
And why they don't want to, they don't feel anything is important as far as we're concerned.
I mean, that is a good question. Like, motherhood, you would think would be like the main thing that is honored across the board by everyone.
They don't honor women,
right.
and
so therefore
subsequently they don't honor motherhood.
Ipso facto.
Yeah.
They don't honor motherhood. Right. But I agree. I think that you're that is absolutely true. That is something, and I rarely say that. I rarely say that, we need to look at what society, I rarely go that route, but that is something that has to be adjusted in society at large, like how you look at motherhood.
Right.
Because
they don't. They really don't think much of it.
We're missing something there. Yeah, we're missing some
if we do
reverence there.
If we do it, with a partner, there's a problem. If we do it without a partner, it's a problem. But it's always centered around us.
Right.
And we're the ones giving birth. So I feel like if you don't honor us, you don't honor the birth, you don't honor the children, what do you care about?
Right.
So if you don't care about it, then you're not going to implement these programs to help people. You're just going to tell them to jump off a pier and deal with it because that's your problem. And I don't care. I don't care if you're not feeling good.
Right.
Suck it up. That's their approach to everything.
So yes, Very is in the comments, and she said we don't value motherhood. You're so right. So you really hit the nail on the head with that. Like that is something that we have to.
Right.
We have to that's the foundation that we have to start at.
Right, because the first thing they do, if somebody does something, like a kid does something and it's in the news, the first thing they do is jump on the mother. What'd she do? She's a failure. They don't know what the hell the dynamic is of the family, but that's how they look at it.
People are posting books, like people are just on this shit. Reba posted Natural Hospital Birth Second Edition, The Best of Both Worlds. And Marissa, replying to that, Marissa Walker said that book saved her. Mm-hmm. She said she had a hard time with it. So I hope one of them call and give us some insight. Mm-hmm. You got the number up, Slims? I'm looking at the number?
No. You should know that I did.
Oh, can you put the number up for me? So Slim's smart mouth. Bumbleclad smart mouth. So so you guys are gonna put the number up for me, and then you guys can give us a call. I don't know why the number's not like right here somewhere where I can just rattle it off, boom, 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 whenever I'm ready, boom, boom, boom. Like it should just like be around for me. But it's
fix that.
So now I gotta choose. I can't have the topic and the number. I want both. But anyway, the number is 929. He's a magician. 929-227-4646. So it's 929-227-4646. So so you definitely hit the nail on the head with that. Like people are definitely that's resonating with people who said they've been through it.
And I guess I've noticed it a lot because I was very involved in my children's school. Parents Association, president, secretary, you name it, I was on it.
Right.
And I've always noticed that when the men were involved, they respected them more. They paid attention to them more.
Right.
They involved themselves more. But when the women were involved, it was like it was our hobby.
Right.
And they didn't really, help along, even though they were those were their children.
Right. Right.
And
right,
I
right.
never understood that. And it never, without fail, that they would do that. And I was like, they don't honor women and they don't honor children.
Right. I think you absolutely have to see. There's this thing, right, where I know I'm always going on the opposite direction, but there's this thing where people think like men are gonna act the same way women would act per se. That's not gonna. They're not gonna do that. And I personally, I can't even deal with a nigga who do that. But they absolutely must learn a reverence for the motherhood. We're not saying you have to act the way we act with children or nurture in the same way that we nurture.
Right.
But you have to recognize what we do, respect it, and honor it in a way to foster us doing it better for your
it
children.
benefits them. It
for your
benefits
kids.
them.
Right.
Like, I don't see why they don't see the benefit in that. A societal, how your children turn out. I mean, because you can't be with them 24/7. So if the woman that is with your children 24/7 is respected by you, and these kids see that, they in turn respect her, and they in turn respect other women. It's a domino effect. Right. And I don't know. I just think it's too easy to not do it.
How can we do it though? How can we? First of all, how can we make it a thing, a trend, or what do you call it? Something, a cultural staple for us to start like having more of a effect of like everybody get together when somebody has a baby.
That's a
and
good
make
question.
sure that.
You know what? I've always loved how different cultures have different traditions around things like that, and how we kind of collectively don't. Right. So I think maybe we should start something. But unfortunately, the people who have, access to the social influencers.
Oh, we got a call. And caller, we're going to come right back to you.
Okay.
Caller. No. She know what's up. We be hype. I be mad, eager, thirsty as fuck for a caller. Caller, where you from and what's your name?
I am Marissa. I'm from Atlanta.
Oh, okay. So, Marissa, I'm so glad you called because in the comments earlier, you were telling me that you actually experienced it. So, before you go any further, I want to frame this. We have a couple of issues that we've been conflating. So, we've been conflating like baby blues and postpartum depression. We haven't talked at all about postpartum psychosis. So, what do you think was your battle?
I had postpartum depression, not just from my first child, but like the second one too. My first child was born at 28 weeks.
Oh, wow.
After I had laid in the hospital for 24 days on bed rest.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, my water broke early, and I didn't start labor. And so they held me in the hospital until she came, and they were like, you could be here for a couple of days. You could be here for a couple of months. I didn't even know that was possible. This is my first child. I had never heard of anybody giving water breaking and then not going into labor and being in the hospital for months. So I did a month in the hospital, gave birth to her at 7 months, and she was in the NICU for 6 weeks, which is about middle ways. Some people do way long. A lot of people get in and out real short.
Right.
But I didn't have time to process all my feelings and emotions about that because I immediately went into mommy work mode. I'm researching. I'm studying. I'm in the NICU from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. until shift change, and then I'm going back in for a couple of more hours before I go home to sleep. I'm pumping every 3 hours. I got milk overflowing. I'm filling up the NICU refrigerator. They telling me don't bring the milk from home. Just keep it at home. And I'm just in full mode. I'm working with therapists trying to figure out what's the best course of action. Thank goodness my baby was very healthy to have been born so early. She was crying when they gave birth, so they were like, her lungs are great if she's screaming that loud.
Great.
And I didn't have time to kind of process it. I was just kind of in the moment and didn't really get to breathe, it felt like, until I really had my second baby 3 years later. because I was so busy with her, with doctors, with nurses, with therapists, with this and that and the other. And she was fine. She had some physical delays. You know, her body was small, so it took her a long time to get strong enough to hold her head up, turnover. Right. She walked late. She had some speech issues when she got a little older. But other than that, mentally, cognitively, developmental-wise, she was fine. But I was so busy working with her, I felt like I was working. I didn't really get to enjoy her as a baby because I was so busy enjoying, you know, dealing with her being early. And so I got the baby blues, of course, like days after I gave birth. I'm like sitting in the bed watching TV. She's in the NICU. My husband's in the bathroom, and I just start bawling. But I understand what it is because I had heard of that. So I was like, this must be the baby blues. And he comes in and he's like, what's wrong with you? I was like, I'm crying. I don't know why I can't stop. I said, well, I know why, but I can't stop. And we end up laughing because I start laughing because I was like, I know what it is. There's nothing wrong.
Right.
Just let this run this course. And I was fine. And I never felt bad or sad or anything or angry. I didn't have any of those feelings until long after. It was like once I had my second baby. You know how Facebook brings your pictures back up.
Right.
Your reminder pictures. Because the whole time she was in the NICU, I took pictures every day. I would post pictures and share what was going on with her, with the family. But I'd never look at the pictures. I took lots of pictures, but I couldn't look at them. Like 2 or 3 years later, I still couldn't look at those pictures. When they come up in my timeline, I would just scroll them past.
Wow.
Because it would hurt. It would scare me. It would hurt me. All the fear I should have been feeling back then, I was feeling the fear and anxiety then.
Wow.
And then with my second baby, because I was over 35, I was already, a geriatric pregnancy and under a microscope, and she was fine. But I had to take all those prenatal shots to keep me from going into labor again. I had to go to the doctor like every 2 weeks at first, and then I was going every week. I was going to the specialist for ultrasounds, and it was just a lot of doctor's appointments. But she was a quiet pregnancy. She didn't try to come early. She came full term. But my life at the time was kind of in disarray because we were out of our home and living in an efficiency hotel, and I was living on the north side of Atlanta, but my doctor was on the south side, so I was praying I wasn't going to go into labor on the interstate. There was a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety and depression in that, of course. So when I gave birth to that baby, 6 days later, my husband catches a flight to go to the Maldives to be in a band on a resort, and we needed the money, so we had to go. But he only got to be with that baby for 6 days, and then he was gone for 6 months. And I had to move back in with my parents.
Wow.
And it's
that's a lot to take
in. It's like I went into a black hole, and nothing could pull me out. That is when I discovered I was an atheist, because I was like, this is not a, this ain't
wow,
no
that shit made you, are you being facetious or are you serious?
I had already been questioning for years,
Woo,
but I was like,
girl.
this is nail in the coffin. This is some bullshit right here, because ain't no God about to let me suffer the way I've been suffering.
Hey, yo, let me tell you, if that suffering is like that, like you just said, you just really made me really feel what you must have been. That was a great example, because anything that'll make you be like, yo, I don't even believe that no God could even let this happen.
Yeah.
But let me ask you a question real quick. Did you did your husband, was he supportive when he was there? Did he understand, or because you said you didn't even really understand when it was happening? So
yeah, he was incredibly supportive, and he just hit some bad, we just hit some bad financial stuff, and I can't blame him for that. You can't help the economy and what it does to your job, but he was always very hands-on. When he could be there, he was there holding babies, rocking babies, changing babies, but he had to work. And I lived near family. I lived like 10 minutes from one of my sisters, but she had kids that were like maybe in high school, and she worked full time. She was busy. Her husband worked, but she helped me out a little. His mom was really good about coming by to hold the baby and bring diapers. She never came to my house empty-handed, but it's when no one's there. When you're all by yourself for like 3 days in a row, and you haven't been outside, and you haven't talked to anybody except on the phone or Facebook, and you're just. And my first one, because she was pregnant, it took her so long to nurse. I watched all 171 episodes of Star Trek Voyager sitting on the couch in my living room on Netflix, just nursing that child. I would nurse for hours on end. So yeah, I was lonely. I was so lonely. And,
but how did you come out of it? Like, what brought you? Because in the comments you said you're actually doing better. So something had to be a turning point.
Medication and going to a therapist. When my youngest was about a year and a half, I weaned her suddenly because I hurt my back and ended up having to go on some pretty hard narcotics, and I wasn't comfortable with the breastfeeding anymore. So I cut her off, and at that time I realized if I'm going to do something about this depression, because I can't seem to come out of this by myself with diet, exercise, sunshine, nothing, I need to see somebody. And I got in with the therapist. It took me a while to find a therapist because I didn't have any insurance. But luckily, my cousin owns a general practice with a therapist, and I could see this woman for $25 out of pocket.
And see, that's another problem is having access.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I've been able, I went in with her, and we talked, and she helped me with the insomnia, and I wasn't comfortable taking antidepressants yet, because, there's a stigma. I don't want to be taking pills, and people be like, she crazy. She on antidepressants. We got to watch her. And it took me about a year of going to her and not really getting better for her to say, let's try something low dose real quick.
Right.
Just try it. If you don't like it, we'll take you off. If we don't see improvement, we'll take you off. So I did a low dose for a couple of months, and then
I think
doubled the dose.
I got to tell you, I'm glad that you did that.
And now I'm better.
I'm glad that you did that. And I want to thank you. I want to thank you for calling so much. I appreciate you sharing this with me and with the art, because we really like what you just did. To just be transparent and let us know that it gets better and that you can, you know what I'm saying, that you can.
Don't be afraid to get that therapy. If you got to go to like the local health department and beg them for something, there are resources, but you got to lower your pride. You got to get over your fear and go find it.
And get over the stigma of medication.
Get it, yeah.
Yeah, because there should be
I proudly take 20 milligrams of Lexapro every day, and I take 50 milligrams of trazodone at night to go to sleep because I'm an insomniac, and I have no problem sharing that with anybody.
I appreciate it so much. Thank you so much for calling in, Marissa. I really
thank you for having me.
And you know how much you already know how you know how I feel about you anyway. So just the fact that you took this time to share with us, I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Good night, y'all.
Good night.
I want to say something about what she was saying about the medication. I want to say, this whole, I don't know what the fuck this whole stigma is about medication, but to me, it's anti-science.
Exactly.
It's anti-science. So
do
not
compartmentalize and cherry pick and like, okay, this science is good, but that science is not good.
Get the fuck out of here. Don't say, don't come up in our circles and act like you're progressive and act like you're, like you're science minded. If you're going to be anti everything that scientists are working on to make things. Especially like you said, you're gonna be selective. You understand medication when they tell you if you don't take this lisinopril, then your blood pressure is gonna fucking kill you. You understand that,
right?
But you don't understand it when somebody tell you.
And even with
your estrogen levels are low,
even
so
with
you
that,
need
they have to titrate it so that you can have it, different levels to see what works for you, because it doesn't always work in different medications. So people think that they could take one medication, it doesn't work. Okay, no medication works, and then they tell everybody don't ever do medication, don't put your kids on it, don't and I'm like, come on, sometimes it is necessary because there is an imbalance in your brain.
Right.
There's an imbalance in your hormones. There's an imbalance, that's making it necessary. Just because they haven't gotten right just yet. My daughter, I've been going through it with her since she was 16. She'll be 27 in June. They just got it right last year.
Right, yeah, you got to work with it. Like, you got to tweak it like you would tweak anything else. Like,
exactly.
You wouldn't do that if it was cancer. You wouldn't say, "Oh, well, you couldn't get this right."
So we're gonna not take that. We're
good. Nah, you have to let them work with. And it's not. I mean, these are things that are quantifiable. They can say, "Look, this is where your estrogen levels were. This is where it is now. Like,
and this is what it's designed to do."
Exactly. They can tell you that shit, and they can break that shit down as math, son. There's no stigma to science. How the fuck you? That has to die. Like, we have to mock and clown that. We have to mock and clown that whole shit.
Exactly. But we need to be more vocal about that. Medication is not a bad thing to I mean, I know that in schools for young kids, they may tend to over-medicate kids just because they can't deal with them. But that's a whole different story.
But that's a whole different story.
That's a whole different story. And stop trying to,
if your son is being bad and you're trying to get some medication to calm him down because you don't want to, you're not, good and damn well what you're doing. If you're doing that, that's some shit that a lot of You know, that's just not a black culture kind of thing to do.
They'll take something, and this is just anybody. They'll take something that has to do with little kids, and Adderall or Ritalin, and for school, and then turn around and put a blanket over everybody and say don't do medication because it's bad for you and it's not going to help, and it's it's something that's designed to hurt you.
I'm having a drink. While my midlife crisis is in play. While my crisis is in play, I don't want to hear nothing about what I drink, when I drink, daytime drinks, self-medicating, like some said. No, all jokes aside, though, for real. We got to start clowning that shit, just like clown that shit out of the door.
Exactly.
That has to stop.
Therapy is a good thing.
If you know that's what you need. If your doctor is telling you that you're depleted on certain shit, then let them do their fucking shit.
And also, if you get a therapist and you don't feel comfortable with them, don't feel bad about changing. You have to be comfortable with them because they're the ones that are going to help you get through your shit. And if they're not there for you like that, dump them. Don't care about their feelings. They're not worried about yours. Just go on to the next one until you find one that's comfortable. Most often is somebody, try to find a black therapist. I forgot the name of the site, but they actually have listings for black therapists in different states.
I'm pretty sure April listed that for me before, but I'll try to get that again, and I'll try to put it in the comments. Reva said she so appreciates her openness that she called in and shared that with us, because I think it's that kind of transparency that's going to destigmatize the whole shit.
Exactly.
And then and
it also may spur somebody on to do what she did because they didn't know which avenue to take, which takes us back to the information situation.
Oh, let me say, okay. And then I also wanted to say that Very said, my nurse midwife hosted monthly classes for all her patients so we could learn newborn skills. It was so good and valuable. Now, that's the kind of thing that when I was young, I'd have been like, I don't need no newborn skills. But you know what, though? Yes, I did. I needed help. I needed help with the fucking breastfeeding thing, which a nurse came
and the diaper rash.
She was very helpful with me. But you know what I'm saying? If I'd have had shit like that, like, baby blues and shit like that, I would have definitely liked to have had somebody teach me, like, yo, this is not unheard of. This is normal. You know what I'm saying? So that would have been good. So yeah. Yeah, we got some more topics to go to, but I think it's important that we
touch
really,
all bases on this.
That we really give this the time it deserves, because the solutions, I would love to see us really serious about solutions. If we could just start talking about how we can make that like a baby shower, come up with some kind of tradition of just making sure that the maybe the mom don't want company, but maybe we can do that stuff y'all do. I don't know. I don't cook. But when you make a big pot, or
bring over food so they don't have to do it, or like hey, one of those kind of do something. We're gonna clean your house for you. That makes people feel so good when you just take over and say, go play.
Yeah, or just hold. Yeah, let me hold the baby or something like that.
Exactly.
So I think that we that's something that we owe Black motherhood. The institution of Black motherhood. Like, we owe that thing. Like, we need to be sure that mom is okay. She's gonna say she's okay, but we have to be eagle-eyed about this and be like, but is you okay? Okay.
Exactly.
Is you okay? Okay. You know what I'm saying? And they have a directory of Black therapists in your area. They're saying in the comments. There's a lot. So anybody who's watching or listening, there's a lot of links and stuff popping up in the comments. And
best audience ever.
Yeah.
So we got the information.
Scroll through there and get that good info, because it does. It takes a village, as somebody said. That I know that's a cliche per se, but that shit is so real. It's so real and true. Like, we only got each other. Yeah. If we really, really want. I know I went through situations with going to the doctor, and I tell this story all the time, but I'll tell it again. I went to the doctor and my fucking eyeballs had popped out. No, not like that. Like, all the way the fuck out. I already got pop eyes, so you ain't got to show me yours. I got my own. We from the same tribe, brother. We from the same tribe. Wow. But no. How the hell did that happen? So, I don't know. I was at my heaviest weight. I think I was 371 at the heaviest that I checked.
Okay.
I remember expanding further. And it's like that's enough.
And you were like, scales don't exist.
That's enough fucking checking.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was right around that time. Everything was just wrong. I didn't feel right in the mornings. I had headaches. I was still trying to, go up and down subways and shit like everything was normal and shit was not normal. I was feeling weird as fuck.
Yeah.
And like at night, I could barely breathe. I had that shit going on. Anybody who was around me sleeping would be like, "Yo, what the fuck? You stopped breathing for many minutes, many minutes." So there was that going on, and then like one night, like literally in my sleep, like the pressure, my blood, I don't know what the fuck happened.
Wow.
But I woke up to like the whole globe of my eyes was like out. Like I can feel.
I can't even imagine that.
It's hard to even explain. I don't even want to go into it. But just know I just was screaming. My daughter was like, ah. I was like, ah. I was both like, ah. And then I just pushed them shits in.
The ambulance came. Ah.
Yes, because what else the fuck can I do? I just like, I can't walk around with my eyeballs out.
Yeah.
They were just raw one eye.
Wow.
Yoink. But I tell that story again because when I went to the fucking doctor, they wouldn't even give me medication.
Really?
Like they was giving me like, they gave me what do you call it? Like ibuprofen. Like they wouldn't give me the real shit. Yeah.
Oh God.
They didn't give a fuck. They just didn't give a fuck. And even the eye specialist came out and she was like, your eyes are already kind of like weird anyway. They're too. Yeah. I mean, she was keeping it real. She was like, they already, she used the instrument. She was like, they already are kind of big for your sockets.
Okay.
She was like, but on top of that, you got this high blood pressure now, and like you got a lot of shit going on that is causing your body to be different or whatever. But this is my point. My point is a lot can be going on and you're not, and I wasn't taking care of myself. I didn't have any, body around me to really like be like, yo, bitch, you wilding right now. Like you should put the Mountain Dew down. Your eyes popped out. I didn't really have that kind of support. But I definitely did not have the doctor support. I can't picture that conversation. I also didn't have the doctor support, and I did not have the doctor telling me like, you know what I'm saying? Like, here's some medication or whatever. Like, it just was a mess. I don't even know how I got in that story, but.
Well, I mean, that could probably segue into the next with the.
It might be trying to
with health
and So, the next topic I want to get on, and callers, we can go back to any topic you want to if you decide to call in. So the next topic I want to do is health and fitness for Black women, and I want to say a few things. The first thing I want to say is, if you are a big mama, right, and you want to be a big mama and you don't have no desire to stop being a big mama, that is okay. Like, nobody can tell you shit. I don't care if you get diabetes, because they're going to try that. Yep. Oh, but diabetes, that's your motherfucking business.
They don't care. They just want something.
And they don't care. Really don't care. And that's your business anyway. This is your life. Your revolutions around the sun. Nobody can tell you how to live your life or what. Nobody can. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, nobody can. Like that, people can pretend that they can and be like, oh, well, no, don't say that, because your life, you only, I'm telling you the hard philosophical truth. It's only your business how you choose to live your life this time that you got in the sun. That's it. You know what I mean? But if you do care about your health, if you do want longer time, if you don't want your eyeballs,
more comfortable time,
you don't want your eyeballs to pop out.
There's that.
Right? If you do want that, you know what I'm saying? Or if you cool with your big mama shit, right? But
rock on.
You notice that you're getting a little bigger than what you like. That's where I'm at. Okay. So I'm cool with my big mama shit. I've always been a big mama. Even in youth, when I was, got down a little small, I still was chubby. Like, I've never not been chubby. Right?
My favorite saying is, I wish I was as fat as I used to think I was.
Word, because back then we
you thought you were like, you were just this behemoth, and you don't even realize when you look at the old pictures and you're like, what the fuck was I talking about?
Right.
And then fast forward to when you get older and your body is like, no, we're not getting rid of this anymore. We're gonna keep it. Right. You're gonna feel really uncomfortable right now the older you get.
Yeah.
And that's where I was.
Right. So that's what it is. For me, I felt like yo, my big mama sexiness that I like to rock with is now is I'm too far, and I wanna pull that back.
Right.
And you felt like you definitely wanted to take some weight off.
Right.
So me and you talked about it a little bit before we made any power moves. We talked about it, and I told you, that I planned on trying to take some weight off.
Right.
I remember you were very supportive from day one.
Always.
I told you like I was slowed down. I could barely walk. Really, to be honest, I could not walk 5 feet without feeling
I felt
something.
your pain. Trust me, been there.
Yeah, you actually gave me a gift, and that gift, I use that gift to this day.
I love that.
It's a little pedal thing that you can just sit and pedal.
Yeah.
And if you're not ready to do like hardcore workouts,
right. Well, the thing is like we are taught that exercise is hard, therefore it's something to dislike, and so we already approach it from a negative.
I sure do.
And that was me my whole life.
That's still me.
That's why I'm trying to figure out why I found like one of those little awards from elementary school that said I was on the track team. I don't even remember that shit. I don't remember being on the track team, but somehow I have an award that says I was on it. But whatever. I've never been skinny. I was always the chubby little sister. My sister was the cute one that had all the nice clothes and the boyfriends, and I was always the chubby nerd that And as I got older, I got bigger. I would lose weight, I would gain weight, and especially after I had the kids, every pound that I lost found me and brought some friends back.
Oh, we got a caller.
So I had lost.
You said that every pound found you and brought friends.
I lost a lot of weight at one point back in my early 30s, and I had dropped mad weight, and I was working from home at the time, so I was able to go to the gym 6 days a week, 3 hours a day.
Right.
Once I could no longer do that, that 115 pounds I lost found me.
Right.
Plus.
Right. And that's how it works.
Then
it comes
life.
On plus some.
My kids got older. I got divorced. I went back to school. I was working in Brooklyn, living in the Bronx, traveling all day, eating bacon, egg, and cheese every day. Then when I was in grad school, my mother died while I was in the middle of the second semester. So, I eat my stress. Food is my best friend, and it doesn't help that I'm a good cook.
And hold on. We're going to get back to that. Caller, what's your name and where you from?
This is Reva.
My motherfucking girl. Talk to me.
Hey, y'all.
Hi.
So I wanted to call in. I actually wanted to hear the rest of what you were talking about, because I think I'm kind of taking us back a little bit to where you all were discussing earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you want to discuss the postpartum depression?
Well, in a way, I guess I wanted to talk about how we frame the conversation.
All right, let's do it.
Okay.
So, when I first saw that we were going to be discussing, black maternal health and postpartum health as a topic, I guess I try to frame everything in terms of blackness. And so, what does it mean to be a birthing parent and be black?
Right.
And what does it mean to be a black mother? Right. And I think that I want to say that because I think that we've been talking about a conversation that's kind of in a sort of like universally, because universally, this is kind of the statement. I think I want to really focus in and frame this as a very specific black issue, and
that's data exactly what we should be doing. So that, right? You got my full attention.
So I guess some of the cause, like why is it that black women do tend to suffer postpartum depression? Well, I think black people tend to suffer, really many mental disorders, in higher rates. But, because of our overall, overarching oppression. Sure. But do
really we suffer it in higher rates,
we are really just now, or the scientific community is really just now, honestly, really dealing with and understanding the sort of the physiological effects of oppression. So,
right.
When I think about my own, birthing journey. Now, I was an older mother. Well, not considered old. I was approaching that. I was 28 when I had my first baby, and 30 when I had my second. And so, because and a college graduate, and so I think because of that, I was able to do, you know, a lot of research and kind of understand who I am statistically.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and I tried to take steps to mitigate that by getting a doula, by choosing a midwife. And, but of course I was also, an obese mother, and, you know, and I was also Black. So you can't completely, right? So, I know with my first birth, I was on bed rest for 20 weeks, because I had cervical funneling. And so, you know, very similar to what, I was basically threatening to go into labor at any time. And so I had to be on bed rest. I had to quit my job, which I wasn't expecting to do. And so, you know, the type of hardship that puts on a Black family is, you know, it's always going to be exponentially greater than, you know, the type of hardship that will be experienced by somebody who has generational wealth.
Exactly.
And so then with my second pregnancy, I had HG. And I mean, I think that could be a whole topic in and of itself, because I think most people think of HG as just kind of, you know, morning sickness, and truly not understanding how
debilitating
it is, honestly. And so honestly, I would take, you know, the bed rest with cervical funneling, you know, over the HG. Like HG, I'm afraid to get pregnant again because I don't want to get sick like that again. I wanted 3 kids, and it's like I think I'm done. It has ruined me for pregnancy.
I understand.
But and you know, and also, and honestly, and people not truly understanding how bad it was. But you know, I had my partner, like, you know, he's right in there. He's A1, you know, and was an excellent, you know, sort of teammate. So I didn't have that. And I even let my mother, I told you, I think on the last show, you know, that my mother is a crackhead, and, you know, we have a sort of a strange situation, but she did come to help me with both kids. And it was, you know, I accepted her help.
Yeah, I know, that's right.
Like, you know, I accepted her help. So I will say, like, that's how important the village is, you know, and I didn't realize that. So after having a baby, but something I also wanted to say is with breastfeeding now, of course, I'm a child of trauma. But with breastfeeding, I remember, like, when I had my first child, how detached I was. Like, I did not feel like I had that outpouring of love for him until my milk came in. I think I don't know, something in my
That's
body,
deep.
my brain was like, this trauma, like I couldn't even open up to him. Not that I didn't have any postpartum depression. At that time, but that was probably as close to it as I got. And I remember telling myself, like, that this would be normal for somebody who's gone through what you've gone through. Just telling myself just to ride it out. It's going to happen. Don't worry about it. But that's something I remember when my sister I was the first one. I have 2 sisters, and I was the first one of us, 2 full blood sisters, of us that got pregnant. And I remember when my older sister, actually, when she was pregnant, me, you know, going through that and kind of telling her about that and opening up to her, which I hadn't talked to anybody else about that. But it's important, when I was listening to Marissa, it's important for us to really tell our stories and tell the deep down nitty-gritty, the dirty. And say, you know, I told my sister, you might not feel love at first.
Yeah.
You might not. I didn't feel anything negative, but I didn't feel what I felt once my milk came in. You know, like that oxytocin hadn't hit me.
The rush of hormones.
Right, and so I had a natural childbirth, you know, and the, you know, my actual birthing experiences were beautiful, but I remember being in the hospital and having to get into it with the nurse. Did anybody else get into it with the nurse?
Oh, I did.
Did anybody else have any trouble with the medical professionals? Because I know it's not just me, because we all Black.
Right.
So I remember getting into it with the nurse, because literally having to almost threaten to fight this woman, because she was telling me that she was going to check my cervix for dilation. And I was telling her, first of all, as a person who has experienced sexual trauma, and also just with the research that I had, I knew and felt that it wasn't necessary, and I knew and felt that it wouldn't be a positive thing for me mentally during my labor. Right. So I wanted to be checked as little as possible, and with the second one, it was none. I birthed my second baby at home, really because of that. But having to fight with this nurse in the beginning, while I'm in labor, about whether or not she was going to put her hands inside of my body without my consent. And I remember she called my midwife. My midwife hadn't come. I had my baby on the 4th of July. And my midwife, bless her heart, she was going through a thing in her practice at the time. And the nurses called her on me and, like, told on me. And she called me to try and talk me into a cervical check. Because really she wanted to see how far dilated I was before she got out of bed.
Right.
You know, and she didn't want it to be all night. And I remember thinking after, I held resentment about that for the longest time, about that little thing, which I'm super petty. But I don't think it's that petty. Like, when I think about it now, you know, I remember, you know, I held a lot of resentment towards her and towards the nurses. Like, the way they would come in there and try to, like, they wanted me to lay down, and I didn't want to lay down. Mm-hmm. And I held resentment about birthing on my back with my first child, which I did not do with my second delivery. I didn't want them to, there was, you know, with my second birth, I had a run-in with CPS. And so I wanted to bring this into, you know, because I think when we talk about Black women and giving birth, and I posted another article, because, and we talk about our postpartum depression, you have to start all the way with our maternity care. You have to start with our prenatal care and our perinatal care. And, you know, what you see across the board is that Black women die more.
Yes.
We have the worst outcomes in, you know, almost every metric.
The worst maternal and fetal death
and that deals with our oppression. Right. And, of course, that's going to lead to our increased depression, right?
Right.
So I post, you know, so both of my sisters, myself and both of my sisters had to deal with CPS in the hospital for different reasons. For one, I told y'all that I had HG, and the only way that I got through that HG and actually began to recover in about 25 weeks, about 20 weeks into my pregnancy. It took me 5 weeks to fully recover. So from 20 to 25 weeks, I started smoking weed.
Hey,
I read some.
You got to do what you got to do.
I read a couple studies, and one in particular that really swayed me was this Jamaican study that I read about the effects of marijuana use. And
I'm not surprised it was a Jamaican study, but go ahead.
but that's, I mean, it was done in the 90s, but it was it ended up being like a 10-year study.
Yeah, it's ahead of its. They were ahead of their time on that shit.
It was like at 5 years, and they had studied the outcomes, you know, for all the women who smoked.
Right.
And most of them would either smoke or drink it in tea. If you could hold something down. At first, I couldn't hold any tea or anything down.
Right.
And you know, then the effect on the children. What they did is they studied the children. They did a longitudinal study on the children to see if there was any like increased risk for any, you know, sort of disorders or, you know, any developmental issues or anything like that, and there wasn't. And so that was all. I was like, okay, you know, because when you think about it, it's like, yeah, everybody does this all over the world. It's like, you know, their kids don't have any, you know, worse outcomes than ours, but I was really afraid. And honestly, I would suggest that to anybody who was struggling with HG, especially as severe as I was. I lost 45 pounds.
Is that what made you give birth at home, or were you going to do that anyway?
You know, so, but anyway,
she never can hear us when we talk. I don't know what's going on with that.
I stopped, you know, like in my, you know, at 25 weeks once I like recovered, because I was afraid, you know, because I didn't want to pop for marijuana, you know.
Right.
So, my sister, who I told you got pregnant after me, she did the same thing, but she was sick much longer in her pregnancy than I was, and so she used throughout like her second and third trimester, and so she tested positive, and so she had to deal with CPS. You know,
even though you know good and well that there's no real negative effects.
None.
Man,
they
get the
can't
fuck
tell you
out of
that
here.
there are any, but they will take your baby.
I know it.
Yeah.
I know it. Believe me, I know. Man, that whole war on drugs was a disaster. But I need to say something real quick. I need to address two things. One thing I want to address is the way we frame the discussion. So we're always coming from, you know, we're a Black centric mindset. So we're coming from a black mindset. I do believe, Reva, that most white women don't even have the need for this discussion in the way that we do, because they do have the economic resources to buy their village, so to speak. They have nannies.
But see, that's not true.
They have. Wait
that's
a minute.
True.
You're not going to convince me that they do not have better access to nannies and support with their motherfucking spending money than black women do. You're not, because I know for a fact that some of the complaints I have heard from women who are stressed out and fatigued after the birth is that they just need very basic things done. They need time to just wash their fucking hair. And as a white woman, you can definitely get that time.
Yeah.
You can buy him, you can pay him and pay for it. Whereas a lot of black women can't do that. So I think that discussion is definitely black centric on the face of it.
Because the assumption is that the problems that we discuss
you think that we're more prone to postpartum.
Well, see,
I'll let you have that, but I agree and I disagree on
the same way. And likewise, I hear what you're saying, but I just wanted to add that. I wanted to add that aspect that's where I'm coming from. But I see what you're saying, how there's many other aspects that need to be addressed directly and specifically from a black standpoint. I hear exactly what you're saying too. And I also wanted to interject and say I don't really know about HG enough to say that I understand where you're coming from, but I had preeclampsia, which was severe nausea the entire time up until I had the baby. So I understand that nausea is hell. I understand that. I should have been more specific, and I shouldn't say I understand exactly what you dealt with your illness. But
I could deal with nausea.
Okay.
I could have dealt with 20 weeks of nausea. That's not what HG is.
Okay, you're right.
You don't lose 45 pounds from nausea.
You're absolutely right. I didn't lose not a damn pound. You got that right.
Yeah.
Okay, you made your point with that. And that's
but see,
facts.
You did the same thing that everybody does. You did that. You just did that. Everybody thinks they understand it. Like I would have thought that's projectile vomiting 20 times a day for 20 weeks.
Right, I understand. You absolutely.
That's what
when I say I understand,
that's not nausea.
Use that term.
You literally, come up with a better term. It's like motion sickness, like that's like lumped in. It's got like something to do with like your movement and like I don't know. My thyroid was all messed up. So and I didn't have that with my first pregnancy. Other than I wouldn't have known that anything. I didn't feel anything with my first pregnancy. Right. I just had to be on cervical I knew I had the cervical funnel. Actually, you know what? If I wouldn't have gone it was a black woman that saved my baby. When I was at work, I worked with an older black lady, and she had daughters. And I came in when I was around 18 weeks, because I had like 2 weeks to my next appointment. I came into work. I was like 18 weeks, and I was like, I couldn't stand all the way up without feeling a pull or pressure, on my cervix. That's what it was. That's not what it felt like. It felt like I was holding a brick in my vagina. That's what I told her.
Okay.
Like it felt heavy, and it made me want to like bend forward. And she said, the only person I saw walk like that was my daughter. She told me specifically it was cervical funneling. She told me to leave work. I did not leave work. What I did was call my midwife and schedule and move up my appointment for that Friday. It was on Wednesday.
Okay.
And she kept telling me to leave work. She told me no, that is not what this is. My midwife was not concerned. And so what I ended up doing is when I got off work, I went to the ER, and they hooked me up to the device to check, what do you call it, where you check to see whether I was contracting or not. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't. And they sent me home. They never gave me an ultrasound. And she told me when she checked on me, she said, "Did they give you an ultrasound?" I said, "No." She said they would need to do an ultrasound to find out. So when I did go to the doctor appointment on that Friday, I went to the specialist because I went to happened to have to go to a specialist because my midwife didn't have an ultrasound machine in her office. So I went to the specialist that she worked with, and when I told them about my symptoms, they immediately they said, "We need to check you." When they did, they had to do a vaginal ultrasound to find it. And the cervix is supposed to be between I think my cervix was less than 1 centimeter, and it's supposed to be 4 centimeters deep. And it was less than 1. So it was literally about to open up, and I was going to start dilating.
Oh, wow.
And so that's how they found it. But it was, but when I think about it, my midwife dismissed me. They dismissed me at the ER. And it was Maddie that really made sure that I laid down that week, you know, and said, do not do anything. Don't come to work. Just lay down until you know, get to the doctor. And she was absolutely right. She was absolutely right. And and I think about just how much we are dismissed and how that would add to our postpartum depression and just how our oppression is so linked to that. And then when I wanted to bring in CPS because that is another thing. Like my younger sister, when she had her baby, she got into it with the nurses at the hospital about, I mean, really, I think that, you know, she got into it with the nurses. Like they had let some medical students come in and watch while she was giving birth, and then or let a medical student stitch her up and didn't tell her that it was a student, and you know, like they cut her and didn't necessarily have to, you know, so there was all of that, and she ended up getting into it with them, and when you said postpartum psychosis, I really think that she, you know, my sister was really dealing with some stuff, but they took her baby, like literally her baby was in the NICU. And she didn't get to take her baby home.
Wow.
They took her baby, and she didn't get her baby back from CPS for 8 months because she got into an argument at the hospital.
The fuck?
She was not able to breastfeed her baby. They gave her baby to some white people that didn't even have kids.
And
they were probably trying to set in motion trying to
adopt.
And
so that was at Cook County. And, I mean, if you look online, the amount of people dealing with CPS, especially black people dealing with CPS from Cook County Hospital.
And they're quick to terminate rights.
It's a fool. I dealt with CPS with my second, after I gave birth to my second child, because I didn't want to send her to the nursery just for the pediatrician to check her out. Because like I told you, I had her at home. And I sent her when we first got there. At first, they wanted to send her to the NICU because they told me, at first a black nurse, told me that her temperature was low when we got to the triage, that her temperature was low. And that she was going to have to send her to the NICU, and I told her no. So I asked her what her temperature was. She told me her temperature was 93.6. I literally Googled. 93.6 was the low side of average. So I said, you know, I don't see a point to send her to the NICU, we're going to do skin to skin. She said, well, if we push your bed up to your room, the wind is going to hit her, and it's going to cool her body even more. She never offered me any warm towels. It was another black nurse that offered me warm towels, warm blankets when I
I had that same
room.
issue happen to me.
I put my baby skin to skin with me, covered her up with the blankets that were on the bed, and put a pillow in front of her. And
I had a similar issue. Not the same issue. I should be careful. I should be definitely careful with that going forward. But I had an issue with. No, I'm dead serious. I'm really learning how to do that because I do that a lot, and it can rub people wrong. What I mean to say is I had an issue when I was in the doctor, when I had my baby, that a black doctor stepped in to correct a lot of the shit that they were slacking on, and she came out and directly, I told this story to somebody and they was like cringing because the lady was so nice to me that I thought she was my friend. Like I tried to invite her to dinner and shit. I was like, you can have dinner with us later. Or I don't even remember what I said when she started asking us, personal questions. I thought she was my real friend. She's like, no, shorty, it ain't like that. I'm just trying to help you out, Right. But I was so young and just, I needed that. Yeah, I was so appreciative. I needed that energy from her so much that I just got carried away. Like I was clingy about her after that shit.
It's my
so
nurse.
I understand exactly how it feels nice to have a black nurse or doctor step in.
Oh, it matters. Yeah, it matters.
And I also want to, one more thing, I want to give a shout out to you and to all people who I know, which is actually becoming more and more in these progressive circles, who are having their babies at home with black doulas or black midwives. And taking that step to really trust each other.
I won't have another baby in the hospital. I won't.
Yeah, see, I've been hearing that. I've been hearing good things about that experience. And I know, I hope that people who had that experience do call in because I want to know more about. I just want to see that discussed more often as an option instead of people thinking you have to do that in the hospital.
Delivering my niece. For my older sister, her second baby. But I will say the reason I dealt with CPS, I had the issue, with them trying to send her to the NICU. I really think that they wanted her to go to NICU because their outcomes. It'll say that a home birth baby had to go to NICU because they take those. If you look for your hospital's birthing report cards, And you really need to look this up. Anybody who's pregnant or thinking of becoming pregnant, look up the birthing outcomes report card for the hospital that you're thinking about birthing at. You will see their cesarean rate. You will see their episiotomy rate. You will see the visits to the NICU, and you'll see a lot of those, those metrics that you really care about as a birthing person.
That's also like, for me, I have 4 kids. My first 2 were born by C-section, and the second set were born naturally, which is unusual for the early 90s. Yeah. And but I had a black doctor for my third birth, and my first 2, I was in labor for a long time. I labor long. But I was in labor for a long time, and I ended up having a C-section with the both of them. The second doctor was too chicken because I have big babies. The third baby, he was almost 10 pounds, but the doctor still allowed me to labor until I was dilated, and I gave birth to him, and it was the best experience ever. And I was really appreciative of that because my recovery time was so quick. Everything, I felt better. I was able to take care of my 2 toddlers while taking care of this little huge child. Right. And
Right.
and then when the 4th one came along, that was a tough one because her arm came out before her head, so she was doing all kinds of amazing things. She wanted to know that she was the last one.
What is VBAC's?
VBAC, vaginal birth after C-section.
Oh, so after you have the C-section.
And they don't encourage that enough. And I think people who know the difference, who've had both, can honestly say that the vaginal birth is never a failure on your part to have a C-section, because if it is what it is. But sometimes they just keep pushing it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm one of those people who I was about that life.
So major surgery to recover from, and having been pregnant, blood loss. My doctor encouraged the first VBAC because she said I was anemic when I was pregnant. And she said, I don't think you should have a C-section because you could end up losing more blood and needing a transfusion. Right. So she was encouraging me to have the VBAC. And she was pregnant at the time, too. So that's why, and she wasn't even there for the birth because I was there for so long.
Were you afraid to have it, to do that?
No, I really wasn't. It couldn't have been worse than the C-sections because I went through some hell with the C-section. So I thought anything would be better than that. I didn't really know how big this kid was going to be, but it really wasn't that bad. I mean, I know a lot of people are all about natural childbirth, no drugs or anything. I'm very pro-drugs for me because it made me get through it. I don't think...
Toro said a lot of doctors are not comfortable with vaginal birth after C-section.
Right, and they need to get comfortable. Like I always say, I had a 9-pound, 10-ounce child as a VBAC.
Right.
My next one was 9 pounds, 1 ounce, and that's because she was early.
Right.
But see, this is also a difference between, you said most doctors are not comfortable with VBAC. You are, you're talking about obstetricians. Yeah. But most midwives are quite comfortable with it.
Right, exactly.
And they do it all the time.
Exactly.
And in a lot of places, you have to go with the midwife if
Does
you want
anybody know the statistics on the midwives who do it at home? Like how many times they have?
Well, like in my state, it's technically illegal for a midwife to actually do a home birth. Like they have to be affiliated with the hospital and all this stuff. And there's like really only one person in our area in Frankfurt who is licensed to do it. And I know her, very well. And she does like almost all the home births, Katie Isaac, in our area. So it's like really hard to do, and it's really hard to get insurance for it. So, my state definitely sort of discourages it. But it's not really for any health reason. It's mostly for money, because they don't get paid when you don't go to the hospital.
Well,
so,
Marissa Walker
and
says,
you don't get the Pitocin, and you're not getting epidural, and they're not charging you.
Yeah, so I'm glad that you brought up epidural. So Marissa says, shout out to epidurals, which I co-sign hard as a motherfucker. So I just want to know, like, what would have happened if I was in a home birth? Like, I feel like I would have died. That's how the pain was. Like, I felt like, give me, and then the epidural almost fucking killed me. To be honest, it shut my whole shit down, and they had to do an emergency C-section. But I still, I would choose it again if I had to. I'm telling you, the pain was so unreal for me. So what happens if somebody chooses a home birth, and then they like, oh shit, I can't do this like this. Too bad, too sad.
I mean, everybody has that moment though. I felt like I couldn't do it either.
But then you did it.
Right?
How long did you labor?
I mean, like I said in my first, I had a wonderful, amazing doula. I had research. I did hypnobirthing. I really, I had time because I was on bed rest for 20 weeks. So, I had time. I didn't do nothing but read and, be in groups and really, be able to plan out. I had a plan and, we stuck to it. Everybody was, well aware. I thought about, I did my visualizations. I did my, hypnobirthing and, I got through it. Now, not everybody does, and for some people, the contractions can slow you. The pain can impede your laboring process. And so, for some people, they get that epidural, and it's like it's smooth sailing from there, and they can relax and with ease. And another thing is that I want to be able to feel my body, what's going on in my body.
Right.
Now, see, that's me, and I think also with my past traumas and just also
that makes sense. That definitely makes sense.
I'm a nigga, so I automatically don't trust necessarily the medical apparatus, so institutionalized medicine in that way. So I already have a sort of mistrust of it, and so I wanted to be as left alone as possible.
Marissa, you're free to call back in, and anybody else who needs to call in or who wants to contribute to the conversation, you're welcome to call in. I appreciate everybody sharing these stories because this is exactly the kind of conversation I was talking about. Like when you just put it out there and let other people feel comfortable with stuff that we normally don't talk about. You know what I'm saying? Like I just think that that's a part of beating this, of beating. Obviously, if you have a actual chemical imbalance that you need medication for, obviously that's something that you actually need, just like you would actually need a medicine for any physical any other physical
throughout the day.
Like I feel like that's something that will never remove that stigma unless we just make it mad clear to people. Like, what are you talking about? Like, we just got to make that plain. But we got a phone call, so stand by, Reva, okay? So, caller, can I have your name and where you're from?
Hello, yes. This is Tony, and I'm calling from Cleveland, Ohio.
You fading out on me, Tony. Can you?
You got it?
Okay, can you hear me, and can I hear you?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you
now. Me now? Okay, yeah. So this is Tony from Cleveland, Ohio, and what I wanted to say was I'm actually really glad that this discussion is really being had. I don't have any skin in this game because I'm a man and I don't have kids. Okay. But I've always been concerned with, if I do decide to have children one day, it's going to be very important for me to really understand, what women really have to go through, and particularly what Black women have to go through and have gone through in being pregnant and bringing children into the world.
Right.
And I'm really glad that this discussion is really being had because every time these kinds of discussions happen, I learn something new, and I learn something that really profoundly affects just how much, it just really profoundly affects me. I genuinely did not realize just how much Black women really endure in really bringing children into the world. It's extraordinary, and I guess the one thing I also want to mention too is I think it's important. Another reason why it's important, for these discussions to be had is because I really do think that we as men, we really need to be paying attention to what our Black women are actually saying, because I think there's a tendency for men to, I can't speak for, of course I can't speak for all Black men, or all men, period, but I think it's important because in conversations that I just overhear, I think that as men, we just really tend to be extraordinarily dismissive of, the woes of pregnancy, and we just tend to be just too dismissive of what women have to actually deal with, and we just tend to dismiss too much. And like one of the really frustrating things is like I had a discussion with one of my close family members the other day where he kept complaining about, you know, a pregnant coworker who was constantly having to, you know, sit down or go to the restroom or, you know, constant complications. And he was actually complaining to me about like, why can't, like, what is the problem? And like the thing that I keep stressing him is like, if you, as a man, it's going to be far more important for you to simply ask about what you can do to help rather than simply complain. And the next thing he said was, well, you know, X person in our family or mom didn't have nearly as many problems. And it's just like, that's just the stuff that you don't know about. Like, so many black women will never talk about the kinds of things that they have to deal with out of shame.
Yeah. I want to say, first of all, thank you so much for calling. I want to say, you said, you know, you don't have a child yet, you know what I mean? But even if, let's say you decided never to have a child, even the fact that you're willing to put thought and be considerate of this situation is exactly what we opened the conversation talking about. Like, this is exactly what we were saying.
How do we perpetuate that?
How do we get people to respect and honor just the whole jump off of motherhood? You know what I mean? And I just feel like the fact that you're absorbing that and like, yeah, I want to try and I want to be considered. I want to just that. If any other men hear you say that shit, that is going to be like a meme from one head to the next until black culture really elevates that position.
We normalize that.
Because I honestly think that black people, generally speaking, are good people.
Right.
Once we know what we're supposed to be fucking doing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that that's something that we're supposed to be doing. Having reverence for motherhood. Like, that is a serious job. It's not a,
and making
it's
it
not
our
a game.
business.
And making it our business. Absolutely. So
some
that's
things
dope.
Need
that's
to be
dope.
made our business.
And like, people are in the comments saying that just like they feel like mad positive energy just from you, just from this call that a man who don't even have a child gives a fuck.
Yeah.
Gives a fuck and is willing to, like, that's just dopeness. That's dope. You representing Cleveland right now, son.
Thank you very much.
Thank
you so much for calling. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate it.
Very welcome.
I'm really appreciating all the positive energy that I get. You know what? If we do this podcast and only 3 people tune in and only one person says, yo, I'm feeling energized, I'm feeling something good and positive from this situation, I will feel like that's what the fuck.
Yeah.
I'm hustling in the game. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do so that I can feel like I took a revolutionary act. I don't give a fuck.
Exactly.
You know, that's all I want is just positive
that
motherfucking
information has
feedback.
to get out there.
It got to get out there
the best way possible. And it spreads beyond just tonight. You know, it goes through conversations that other people have because they get information from here.
Oh, we got another call? Oh, Reva? Oh, no, oh, that's okay. She'll call back when she know how. Reva is a vet. Reva is a veteran. She's always coming with the information. She knows that we wouldn't disconnect on purpose in any way without telling her what's up.
No.
But yeah, so anybody, Reva included, anybody who needs to call back or call in on this particular topic, the topic is open for discussion for anyone who wants to call in. In the meantime, we was discussing the weight loss situation. So I just wanted to ask you, do you recommend weight loss surgery for people who are struggling with weight? What do you think?
That's a hard question. I struggled with it for years. And when I finally
we got to call back. We may not listen. The main topic was postpartum.
Yeah.
And if that goes to midnight, that's fine with us.
Yeah.
So the other ones are just backup topics.
Right.
So caller, is it Reva?
It's Reva. Yes.
Okay. Sorry about that, Reva.
It's fine. I'm so used to being hung up on. I be hanging up on y'all. So
I know you do. You might have did it this time. Now you're just trying to slide it by.
I'm ready now.
But yeah, we had some male energy who basically is saying exactly what we needed to hear. That
I really hope we get more because, listen, that energy. You know, when you're well, actually, I will say, my husband, especially during my home birth, he of course, he was the one who, actually caught the baby, but I don't think I could have gotten through the home birth without him. My daughter was much bigger than my son. She was like 9, 11 and a half. So, and I don't think I could have gotten through that without him. But, my first birth, if I didn't have my doula, she just really just helped me ride every wave. She was right there. But for my second one, I think that we were good on our own. We were good. Yeah. But I will say that, with that home birth, I really do think that kind of made me a target in the hospital. First of all, I was like, but they were talking about how big she was and the fact that I birthed her, at home, and they wanted to send her to the NICU, and I wouldn't let them send her to the NICU because she didn't have to go to the NICU. And then,
was it just because she was birthed at home that they wanted to put her in the NICU?
Well, I was talking about the that birthing report card.
Yeah.
You see, because when they look at the metrics about whether or not home birth is safe, or whether or not, when you're having a comparison between home birth and hospital birth, one thing they look at is how many is the trips to the NICU. That ratio. So is it more likely that a child will have to go to spend time in the NICU after a home birth than after a hospital birth?
Right.
So you have to know that they are looking for a reason to send. First of all, they can charge you for that.
Right.
But it looks bad if they say, "Oh no, your baby, the temperature ain't. The baby's gonna have to go up under the warmer."
Right.
And me knowing that that kangaroo care is gonna be the best thing for pulling the child's temperature up.
Yeah, there were fears. An educated mother.
But they tried to play me. You know what I'm saying? They tried to send my baby to the NICU, and they kept, they try to find any reason to have hands on the baby, or it feels like. And so what happened is the reason I ended up having to deal with CPS with my second baby is because I refused to send her to the nursery.
Right.
The first night when I was there, I sent her. They said the pediatrician's here. I sent her so I could go have a shower, and they brought her back, and then but I didn't want to send her. I said, "Can he come in the room?" And she was like, "No, he doesn't do that. He doesn't do that. He sees all the babies at the same time." I said, okay, well, I need a shower anyway. So I sent her on so I could have a shower because my husband had gone to work. So I was in there by myself. And so I wanted to have a shower, so I sent her. But I really didn't feel good about it, right?
Right.
And then, later on, about an hour later after they brought her back to the room, the doctor came in the room. The pediatrician came in to, tell me, what all that she was healthy or whatever. But also he said, I heard that she was, birthed at home, and said yes. And he told me how dangerous that was. And, he was really chastising me about having her at home. So after that, and he turned out, that's Ralph Alvarado. He ended up running for Senate and winning. But anyway, he was chastising me, and but anyway, there was nothing wrong with my baby. I've written about this before.
Right.
So he left, and so when I realized that he's coming to the room, I said, I'm not sending my baby back there. I'm not sending her there by herself with that man who's got a problem with me birthing her. And he was talking about how big she was and all this. So the next day, when I found out it was the same doctor, I said, no, he can come to the room. He's coming to the room anyway.
Right.
And he refused to see her. He refused to check her. And then the next day, he sent CPS because I didn't send her. He sent CPS and called, and he said that I was refusing medical treatment for her. So I literally, yeah. And my husband and my mama happened to be there at the time. And, I had to really, argue my case, that this was harassment and that I was going to sue. And I had to know all of this on the spot because at first the CPS woman didn't come in and even identify herself, who she was, who she was with and why she was there.
Right.
And I didn't think she just came and asked me about my birth insurance, which several people had and several of the nurses had because it's so rare, to have that, especially in these parts.
Did you ever meet with a patient advocate?
I'm sorry?
Did you ever meet with a patient advocate?
No.
Did they have one?
No. So, and neither did my sisters, as far as I know.
She probably just didn't know.
No. I know that they probably have one, but at that time, I'm not thinking about that.
Right. I know.
Right.
I'm a nigga. So, right. I ended up having to argue with this woman, that the doctor was the one who was refusing treatment. And then I had to ask, I said, so what did he say was wrong with the baby? He said, nothing. I said, because, nobody told me anything was wrong with my child. What's he treating her for? She looked at her chart. He ain't treating her for shit. Okay. So then I said, okay, if he's not treating her for anything, then, how am I refusing her treatment? And, he can come to the room just like you did. He just was refusing because I'm black. And so, I wanted to bring that part up, just the way we are targeted. We are targeted as black mothers, and our children are targeted. And we have all of these different systems in place.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree that we are targeted. I think that's a huge mistake that people forget dealing with doctors in hospitals.
And I also feel that it's a lack of empathy on their part because they don't see us as they would see themselves.
Yeah, they said they caught them.
These babies are not important to them because they don't look like their babies.
Yeah, and they caught them straight out. Yeah. They did the studies and they caught them straight out with the pain threshold and assuming that we don't feel it.
I had an infection on my incision after my daughter was born, and they had the staples in there. You know how bad a slight infection is, like say you have a pimple or something like that, how painful it can be.
Yes.
They gave me some little mild sedative that I was awake and aware, and they pulled the staples out of my infected incision.
Wow.
I was screaming so loud. It was
into the mic, right into the mic.
I was screaming so loud.
Don't be afraid, girl. Get it just like this.
That they thought, you can imagine the other mothers on the... You can imagine the other mothers on the ward and my roommate and everybody, and I'm screaming like I was being murdered because they're pulling staples out of an infected incision.
Right.
But they did this because I was 20, because I was black, and they didn't give a shit.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think that's underrated, that people we almost got to the point now that we're ashamed to say they did this because we're black, because they think that we believe that somebody's going to be like, oh, you blaming the man. You're blaming the man. Right. No, we're not blaming the man. The man did it.
At 6 o'clock in the morning to examine me when he knew my family wasn't around. So he couldn't answer to them.
Right. Exactly.
And that's why I asked you about the patient advocate, because that's how I found out there was one, because I didn't know that either.
You wouldn't know.
But I was in there for 11 days before they let me out of that damn hospital.
Yeah, that's a huge
like
thing.
106 degree
fever. In general, like across the board, not just on this topic, but across the board, that's something that we need to be teaching our children, understanding, knowing all the time. Racism is really, really real, and so you have to go hard. Everything you do, everywhere you go, you got to go super duper hard. You know how they be like, oh, we have to be twice as good. No, you don't. You got to just go super duper hard.
Yeah.
Because you do got an enemy who is trying to fuck you up.
And let them know
you know. I think in my life it's never hit me as hard as since I've been a mother.
Yeah, I can.
Since I've given birth and just going through that whole process. I mean, I really realized like how being black and how my oppression really has real physical. I guess because it's so physical.
To protect.
Right. Absolutely.
And literally having your wishes and having your, just be completely ignored.
Right.
People to tell you things are not happening to you.
Right.
Listen, the first, I told you I had a thing with cervical checks, with in my first birth, and because of the cervical funneling that I had, which is basically your cervix opening up on the inside. They, at one point when they had given me, because I had to go every week for ultrasound. And so at one point my cervix was so thin, they thought that I might actually already have a small opening in my cervix. So they had to check me manually. The doctor ordered a manual check. And that was the first time I had been manually checked. And this was probably 6 weeks into them giving me weekly ultrasound. And, she did the manual check, and I was like, and I remember her telling me that it shouldn't hurt. She said, oh, I said, that hurts. Ouch. And she says, oh, it shouldn't hurt. As she's pulling her gloves off. That's all she said.
Yeah, it shouldn't hurt. Just saying that alone is just like, bitch,
so what am I supposed to think?
Right.
Is it hurting because you want it to hurt? Am I not really feeling this pain?
No,
what the fuck?
This
is the type of shit you go through.
Right.
Like
as a black
gynecological
woman,
care and period, the way they treat us.
Motherfuckers like literally calling CPS on you for you just disagreeing.
Right.
And that started as soon as my baby was out of my body. Mm-hmm. The same with my sisters.
Okay, I got something I want to say concerning something that Marissa said about the home birth. So like, yeah, we've been doing this though. We've been doing this. That's true. We have for time immemorial, right? However, as science progresses, there are certain things that they can help with.
Right. Help facilitate it.
Right. So, we've been doing this a long time, but it used to be that maybe a baby would die in childbirth more often, something that can be prevented now. So that's what I wanted the statistics on. Like, right now with the home births, is it considered safe, statistically speaking, versus hospital births? Like, is it, like, what's up with that?
85% of pregnancies of births are normal. 85%. So that's just one overarching general statistic. Right. Most women are fine to birth on their own.
Right.
On their own.
Yeah.
So
so if you're healthy and strong and young, and it's probably going to be fine.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Most people is going to be fine. It really is.
Especially if you're under a doctor's care the whole pregnancy.
Remember all them white girls giving birth at prom back in the 80s.
Right. Now listen. Now you were under a doctor's care over the course of the pregnancy, right? Before the actual birth.
Absolutely.
Right.
I had actually planned a water birth at the hospital with my midwife, with the same midwife. And it wasn't until the last minute that I just decided that I wasn't going to go because I couldn't get them to agree on not doing cervical manual checks for me in my state. They kept talking about how they have to do manual checks, but you literally don't have to do manual checks because it's my body doing all the work. Right. You just want to know, so you know when you want to come to the hospital so you can plan your day or your night or whatever. Right. And I don't want that. I mean, and too many people have told me, which my midwife was not a rough, she wasn't rough. But, I had too many people tell me that, one of the problems they had, that they still had pain from the cervical checks. I didn't want that. Like, I just want your hands off. I want your hands off.
I don't blame you.
And so that's why I just said, I don't want to deal with it. So I had a doula. And we called the ambulance, and I had my baby in my bed.
I think, okay, so let me ask this question. Since we're trying to figure out what would be a good support system for Black moms who have their baby and end up, having either postpartum depression or baby blues or, needing support. Or needing support. So... What's up?
A postpartum doula, I think. We need more Black women to become doulas.
What? Oh, I got a caller. Oh, caller, can I have your name and where you from?
This is Andrew.
Oh, Andrew. Speak nice and loud for me. I never heard you speak loud, so I don't know how we're going to pull this off. You got a gentle touch with it, son. You mad, chill, and laid back. Andrew, what's up?
So... I just want to shout out Tony from Cleveland.
Big up, Tony. Big up. Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah, oh my God. Like, he hit some points, and he actually made me think of some stuff where, like, I did not know. Like, there's, like, a lot of nuance to just motherhood, pregnancy, all those things that go on that men just have no clue about.
No idea.
Like, I had not seen Kia do any of the stuff that she's doing now with the baby ever. But she's doing it.
Right.
Instantly. You know what I mean? Like, I never seen her, like, warm up the wipes. Or, just something crazy. She just...
Yeah, just the little touches that she somehow was just doing that you wondering why you don't somehow know how to do.
Right. Why don't I know that? It's because men in the grand scheme of life, men aren't as important as women are. Like, men could be sent to the wilderness to go live, and y'all only pull us out when y'all need us to. And just y'all just running society. But like,
nah, we'll pull you out for more than that. I'm not about to play that game. I'm gonna pull you out to fight for violence when I need you to fuck something up. So let's not sell you short now. We still gonna need you to fuck something up.
I'll be together.
So, look, like I said, all the like little things, but the one thing that really pissed me off about her pregnancy is a little bit of disregard from the medical community because she never got to see one doctor, and I think that was like more important for her to see one person, because it's like, you know, now they do it where your visits are spread out amongst a bunch of people, and like everyone specializes in something different, and it's just like, no, I want to see one person and I want to get to know one person. The one good thing though that I really felt good about when we were in the delivery room, Kia got there like literally her water broke the moment they sat her down on the bed in the delivery room. And all these like white and Asian women were in the delivery room, and like they were, you know, checking all their vitals, getting all this information. But like a sigh of relief when the black delivery doctor came in. I was like, yeah. Like I wanted to, I wanted to like, you know, give her the Wakanda forever. But yeah, like she really saved the day, and she was really good. Like I really want to send her a thank you note, but Kia was like, no, you don't need to do that.
Yeah,
like,
I'm telling you.
You can still send it. She'd
you can
appreciate
send a thank
it.
you note, but don't invite her to dinner because that's overstepping.
Yeah.
I overstepped.
Right.
Monique got too familiar.
I got too familiar. But yeah, I hear what you said. One thing that one point you make it, Andrew, that is so important that I think people really need to fucking focus in on. Really trying to make that to have that one doctor over the course and not let them treat you like a fucking clinic case where nobody's invested in your folder. You know what I'm saying? No, nigga, I want you to have my folder with doodles on it, and it's always you, and it's every time it's you, so that you can feel invested in this in me. You know what I mean? And I think that is, if you can get that going, then you're doing good.
Right. I also had like a foreshadowing moment a couple of years ago. Y'all don't know this about me, but I actually have gotten off of opioids very, very recently. So Kia had to hold, you know, everything down. But
son, it's a breakthrough moment.
Huh?
This is a breakthrough moment. You never told. I never knew this.
Right. So, yeah. Anyway,
but congratulations.
Basically, thank you. She basically, like, I don't know, somehow she just started like moving different. You know, her energy was different to help me through that. Now, mind you, this wasn't like me going out getting heroin and shit like that. This is basically the doctor misprescribed me, basically. So something that was only supposed to go on for 30 days went on for like 9 months.
Okay.
So it became almost impossible for me to get off this drug. So whatever. But Kia, like I said, it was foreshadowing because I saw her energy like change when it became time to work on my health. And now, like, I can see like that is like a consistent energy
for the kids,
you know,
for the baby,
right, with the kids, and like it just turns on, and it's amazing just to see like women do that.
Wow, son, you really, really, really just nailed it. Like you nailed it. Like first of all, you offered us. Man, I'm getting mad emotions. I cannot even. Let me get myself together.
There's been a lot of openness and clarity.
Listen, you sacrificed something personal in order to like at the altar of black motherhood just now, and I cannot fucking thank you enough for that kind of positivity, because that's exactly what we need in order to, you know what I'm saying? That's what we need in order to make this resonate with black people and be like, oh yes, this is that real shit. This that real shit that we need to really get up on and start like really being, you know, really having reverence for this institution of motherhood. Yeah. And like how dope black women, I say this for Reva in case I stutter, black women in particular need, you know, we need that. We need that reverence. We need that. We deserve that honor. And that you would just like, son, I just appreciate this phone call so much. I appreciate this so much because you're nailing it.
Can I interject this?
Yeah, you can interject. I'm still reeling from
okay.
But go ahead, though, honey.
Oh, I know. I really don't want to take you down from your high on
this. No, you're not going to. You're going to try to, and then I'm going to show you why you're wrong. So go.
It's. I think I understand the sentiment, and I think that's a beautiful sentiment about sort of just people sort of standing in the gap for each other. But I will say, you said that's a testament to Black motherhood. But I really think that that's more of a testament to our, in a way, don't you think that adds to our, to our postpartum depression? Is having to sort of mother before you are a mother, and literally mother your, the man in your life.
No,
and I mean, I think is that mothering or is that muling?
No, I'm gonna tell you why I don't think that's muling. I'm gonna tell you why. Okay, if you are a mule, if that's what you are. You know what I'm saying? If you're the type who is willing to be a doormat for somebody, I don't know. I don't have that kind of help. I got to send you somewhere else. I don't. You know what I mean? Right. However, if you're somebody who knows enough that you're willing to help somebody who may have helped you in ways that are not the topic of fucking discussion right now,
because every time there's never going to be a perfect time.
No. Every time that black man bashing shit come up, it's always, you know what I'm saying, anytime we talk about something, you know what I'm saying, I don't care what the topic is, it has to go back to, but black men we're not doing that. It ends right here. Wait a minute.
Are you saying that that's what I did?
If there's evidence of a black woman being a doormat, then we can discuss that and be like, oh, well, she was doormatting. But you know what I'm saying? If I don't have evidence of that, then I'm not about to say no. She's a mule. Get that out of here. That's not no mule action. Black women will do things for black men, and black men make sacrifices for black women.
Will, because we're socialized to do that. The same way men in general are not socialized to give a fuck about pregnancy. They're not socialized to give a fuck about how they got here and about what happens to their sperm after they ejaculate.
Wait a minute, though. So even if black men don't,
they are socialized to not give a fuck and not help us, and we're socialized to always be helping them.
Wait a minute, because you're conflating things. Because it's cute, but it's not the whole story. You see, you can say that they're not socialized to honor black womanhood. Damn it, you can say that they're not socialized.
No, I didn't say womanhood. I said that motherhood.
I'm sorry, black motherhood.
Or not even motherhood, but that parenthood.
Okay, parenthood.
You
can say that. That's fine. That's fine. You can say that. That's fine. But what I'm telling you is, I'll agree with that. That's fine. But what you can't say is that somebody who, in a whole other capacity, not in motherhood, but in a whole other capacity, help somebody out, that they're muling. Because you don't know in what way.
Why is it here? Wait, why is it here when we're talking about motherhood? Why is that here? About how his grown ass was helped by a black woman who was not his mother. Why are we talking about it? Why are we centering that in black motherhood? Why is that part of our motherhood?
For real, that you got a blind spot that you don't fucking hear that? Wait a minute. No, pause. No, we about to pause it.
Motherhood. No. Why is that part of our motherhood?
So this is what I'm saying to anybody in the audience who is still listening. Unless she has a gripe about, or she knows that this person that did not actually help, because this wasn't about motherhood.
Right.
The sacrifice was about opioids.
Right.
That was a fucking sacrifice. So unless you know that this person is a doormat who's going to let somebody use her up about to help get over an addiction.
Exactly.
And without ever receiving help from that person, like two loving people do when they look out for each other in different aspects.
Happens and family.
Why the fuck would you assume that never happened? No, I'm sorry, Andrew, that I had to speak over you, but I got to wrap it up. We got to put it in the comments. Thank you so much for calling, but we're not doing that. Everything is not about to turn. Every single topic is a black man bashing at the bottom. Fuck out of here with that. No, negatory. Thank you all for calling. I love you. I love you, Eva. Thank you, everybody, for calling.
Good night.